Thank you for joining today's session titled Parent Collaborative Approach to Post-Secondary Readiness. My name is Jasmine Jeren Gonzalez, and I'm with the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, one of the 60 by 25 network organizers, now the Illinois Education and Career Success Network. This session is being recorded and will be posted on the network's website after the conference ends, along with a copy of the PowerPoint. To ask questions of the session speakers, please do use the chat feature and we will try to get to them as time allows. The chat feature can also be used to interact and network with fellow attendees, so feel free to do that as well. I will now turn it over to today's session speaker, Erin and Laura.
Welcome, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us today for our session on Parent Collaborative Approach to Post-Secondary Readiness. My name is Laura Rios, and I have been a part of Waukegan to College for the past 12 years now. And I get so much joy in having been here when some of our fifth graders joined the program and now they're in college. So with that, I'll turn it over to Aaron to introduce himself. Aaron, you're on mute.
Okay. Yeah, oh, sorry about that. Trying to find the unmute button on the share screen. It's all good. Good afternoon, everyone. I don't even know what time it is. I worked 16 hours yesterday finishing up writing a grant, and it's just I'm so excited about being here. And you can read more about me in my bio, but basically I've been working in youth development my whole career and have been with Waukegan to College for a little over a year, and very, very passionate about getting students to and through college.
Can I ask for a volunteer to read both of these bullets aloud? Raven raised her hand.
Yeah.
Go for it, Raven.
Okay. Participants leave with a greater commitment to integrating parents into their college readiness programming, and participants have practical solutions for the challenges that they might face.
So Erin and I, we're going to work really hard this hour to make sure that when you leave today, we have met these outcomes that we set out for this workshop. We know that working with parents is challenging, but it's also very rewarding. And so you'll get a chance to learn about what's challenging, learn about what's rewarding. But before we get started, why don't you in the chat just tell us what your expectations for this workshop, what some of your expectations are for this workshop. Getting more ideas or strategies to engage parents. Thank you. How can we best incorporate parents when schedules are hard to get to align? I'm just gonna remember these things to make sure we touch base on them.
Anyone else? If you want to share, not through the chat, and just raise your hand and share, that's perfectly okay too. Well, let's go ahead and move on. I mean, I hope that you have an expectation of engaging, and also feel free if you want to turn on your camera. There's no obligation there, but as a presenter, I think lot of times helps us engage. Allegra put recommendations for communication tools. Great. Well, let's get started thinking about what parent engagement looks like. And on this next slide, you're going to see 4 pictures, and I would like you to think about which of these images best represents your experience in engaging with parents and why. And maybe 2 or 3 people can raise their hand and share which of the images best represents your experience and why. And anyone be willing to share? I thought sometimes doing Zoom training with middle school students was difficult. Come on, you guys, engage with us. Somebody share which one of those images is best representative of your experience.
This is Sam. I'll jump in.
Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, just I think, I'm gonna use I think the best one is the dueling swords, because I feel sometimes we're competing for the parents' attention. So
Yep.
They have so much going on in their lives, be it their own the family work, the community work, the life work, the housework, whatever it is, that it's often I feel like we're competing to get their time and attention for whatever message that we want them to do. So that's the image that struck to me. I'm complete.
Yeah, we've got a few people in the chat that have shared the roller coaster, Raven and Susie. Raven wrote, just because some parents are easier to get engaged than others, and that's true. And Susie shared that we have ups and downs with our high school parents. Totally. Parents are people too, right? And they are sometimes not very predictable. Anyone else want to share? So events, but a combination of all 4. Very true. Depending on the parents that you're trying to engage with. Well, before we dive into our content, and by the way, if you're not familiar with this, and this is just a little bit of an aside, we're using a dialogue education approach to this workshop. And if you're not familiar with dialogue education, I'll put a link in the chat at some point in time to share more about that with you. But we really do want to try to engage, and so we'd like to continue. And can I get one volunteer to read the first 3, and then another volunteer to read the second 2? We want to just share what our assumptions are coming into this workshop and around the content that we're going to share. Is it Tawana? Am I pronouncing your name right?
Yeah, it's Tawana.
Tawana, thank you.
So the first 3 are: parents exert significant influence over their children. Parents want to be involved. Many parents of first-generation students lack knowledge about the post-secondary educational system.
Yes, thank you, Tawana. Can someone read the last 2? Raven, thank you.
Yep, this is culturally appropriate in many cases. We are using the term parents inclusively. We are referring to birth parents, legal guardians, and caregivers, etc.
So, we just want to be clear, like, we're coming at this from our perspective. Just a little bit of background. Our organization works with students, first generation students starting as young as 5th grade, all the way through their college career. And one of the unique aspects of our programming is that parents are involved from the very beginning. And we have not only our parents involved with their students, but we have a parent leader team that shepherds and helps to ensure that our parents have all the information that they need, that they feel comfortable, especially when we're onboarding them into the program. And So that's where we're coming from, working with about 170 families currently. And Laura's going to start us off a little bit with our content, thinking about why include parents in programming.
Thank you, Aaron. So I want to go back to when we were founded, which was in 2009, and you will see the use of the word trust throughout our presentation, and that trust started back then. So when we were founded, parents trusted usually a lay leader from their church who worked really hard to help bring Waukegan to college to life. And so it was through a lay leader in the church, or maybe the pastor, who knew of our program and said, I think that this would be a good program for your child. And with that start, we found parents who were really committed to helping their child make it to college. So some of the parents that I worked with early on were parents who had children earlier in life, raised them, and they saw their children, grow up or drop out of school, or graduate from high school but not have meaningful work. And with the birth of a new baby, a younger, the youngest sibling in the family, in many cases, they really wanted something different for that child. And so a lot of the first families that we started working with, this was not their first child. Maybe it's going to be their second, third, or fourth, but they had learned some things. And some of the things they learned were in and around their lack of knowledge in the US educational system. And they wanted to make sure that with this child, they were going to graduate from high school and go on to college. And it was with these parents that we formed our first parent leader team, who were, continued to be well connected in their church primarily, or maybe a club. And they were starting to help identify other kids for our program, talking to their parents. My son or my daughter is in this program. You should join this program. And so parents early on started to help us identify students who would succeed. And the reason why they felt they would succeed is because they knew that this student was serious about school, and they knew that their parent was serious about education and would be committed.
Thanks, Laura. Another reason that we really believe that it's important to include parents is because they can serve as an extension of your team, or in our case, our team. And it's interesting, Raven, you put a question in the chat about when you have a large caseload of students, how do you make the time to really touch base with all of them? And this is, you couldn't have thrown me a easier softball to hit. This is why one of the reasons why we so heavily engage parents is because we can't do it alone. We're a team of 8 working with around 200 students. And so our parents, they help us not only with some of the more administrative types of things or recruiting, but they also provide us with, like I said, the shepherding help. They help reach out to and connect with the other parents in the program. And we're actually just getting ready to hire 2 part-time parent leaders that'll be putting in 10 hours a week, because we believe in the knowledge and the experience and the wisdom that parents bring to the table.
Aaron, can I add to that?
Please do, and can then continue. Yeah.
Our parent leader team is now 17 strong. Each parent leader has a roster of about anywhere from 8 to 10 families on their roster that they are in contact with regularly. And so that's one way that we stay connected to the other families in our program. So, one way is each advisor has their caseload, but then through our parent leader team, they're really the boots on the ground. They're gonna make phone calls, they're gonna send text messages, they're gonna make sure that parents know about important information, either related to our programming or even community support. We found a lot of that during COVID when our parents were learning about the food insecurity that our other families were going through, and did a great job at helping them find resources. So
Yep.
our parents have a network, and I mentioned churches, but also clubs. So a lot of our parents, they immigrated from Mexico or Honduras or Guatemala, and they have formed little communities here. One is called Club A Paseo, and they will have, weekend activities for students, or a lot of our families belong to soccer clubs. Soccer is big here. And so through that network and that sharing of information, not just about our program, but I will tell you there's a sense of pride, right? My child is in Waukegan to college. My child is going to go to college. There's a little bit of competition there. Oh, tell me about this program. I want my child to go to college too. So our parents have a wonderful network and encourage this college going culture just by virtue of being connected with clubs, organizations, athletic things that their children are going through, and they talk. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Thanks, Laura. The last thing that and this is by no means comprehensive. We could probably talk about this for hours and hours because we're so passionate about including parents in our programming. But one of the important things around this is really contextualizing the work in the community in which we live and work. And we mentioned the assumptions that it's culturally appropriate, and I think this really ties into this last point, and that's that parents need to be part of the decision-making process. And this idea of having a student hearing from their parents that they have the blessing or the bendición, it is so important because many times our students, a significant amount of our students have really important responsibilities at home. Sometimes they are contributing economically to the family, or they're providing care for their siblings. And when it comes to that moment of deciding where to go to college and if they're going to go away to college, they can feel really guilty about leaving home. They can feel like they're abandoning their family in some situations. And so that blessing many times can be that final bit of motivation for them to start looking at their dreams and what they want to accomplish in their post-secondary career.
So I'm going to take you back to 2009. That recruitment, into our program or joining our program was based on trust. After a few years, we wanted to learn more about the family that was joining the program and implemented an application process. As part of the application process, we asked students to answer 3 short essay questions, but we also asked parents to also answer 3 short essay questions. And it was through that process that we started to, right at the very beginning, learn how meaningful a post-secondary education was to this family. And I'm going to read you just a few quotes that came directly from some of the essays that parents wrote when they answered the question, why do you want to be in Waukegan to college? And so excuse my English because some of these were written in Spanish and it's a direct translation. So why do you want to be in Waukegan to college? As the mother of Rachel, Eunice, and Daniel, I think it's important for my children to go to college because I don't want them to be without education like me. Also, so that they do not suffer in the future with mistreatment, humiliation, and in the factories. Another quote, because I want to support my daughter to achieve her dreams. And I know that in this program, she is going to overcome with the help that they are going to give her. As a mom, I know that I will have a better guide on how to support her so that she can go to college. The last essay that I want to read, just a short excerpt. The approach toward the families being involved is of great support in learning with our kids. It makes the adventure more exciting. I fell in love to see how the kids explain to us their journey into the program and the parents with great confidence to speak about their experience. This quote was the result of a family coming to one of our open houses and meeting students and parents who were already in the program before they decided to apply. And after being a part of the open house and hearing how Waukegan to College is changing the lives of these students and parents, decided to join. Lastly, this parent says, just being of service makes me happy to be part of not only building my son's future, but helping us as parents learn in the journey to his success.
Thanks, Laura. I mean, one of the things that we're very confident about, and that is that parental involvement is directly correlated to the success of the students in our program. I can't give you any hard statistics at this moment, but I know anecdotally that when the more involved the parent is, in general, the better a student does in our program. Wouldn't you agree with that, Laura? Absolutely. Okay. So another way to include parents is engaging them through continuous evaluation and feedback, which can inform programming. And we do that in several ways. We do that on a very high level, in that in our charter as a nonprofit, it's written in that 2 of our board members will always be parents of children in our program. And so we have that perspective always at the highest leadership level. And even when I was hired a little over a year ago to come in as the second executive director, replacing the founder, at least one parent was involved on the search committee and then I had an opportunity before I was made an offer to meet the parents. On a more continual basis, we do surveys with our parents and our parent leaders, asking them to gauge things like how confident they are around the knowledge that they need to have in order to assist their student as they're applying for colleges or they're choosing their courses in high school. And we want to make sure that when even something as small as, hey, we're going to print a new t-shirt, we run it by our parents to get feedback, because we want what we're doing to be meeting perceived needs, not just what we're guessing. So we engage parents through continuous evaluation.
The other way we're engaging parents is directly through our programming. And I think someone had asked earlier in the chat, the challenge of, parents who work. we've come across, parents who work 2 jobs, parents who work weekends, and parents who don't have transportation. And we do our best to meet them where they are. So involving parents in workshops, advising, and leadership alongside their students. We start to talk to parents about the importance of leadership. And when we find ways for students to lead in the community, maybe through community service, we invite parents into a process that sometimes allows them to do a service activity with their child. And we try to find different opportunities, but also keeping in mind of those scheduling conflicts that may arise. Something like a Feed My Starving Children, where parents and students can go and pack food for a few hours together that's going to be shipped to a country where kids are starving. That's something where a student and a parent can look at a schedule online together and go, you know what, here's when we can do this together. Advising sessions happen after school, and our advisors are committed to meeting the parents where they are, and many advising sessions will happen after 6 p.m. because that's when the parent is off of work, or maybe on a Saturday morning or a Saturday afternoon, because that's when the parent is available. And I want to say, as a former advisor, it's so important for parents to be part of those advising sessions. I remember sitting with a student and his mom talking about upcoming SAT prep. And I was so proud that we were really, we had the schedule that I was going to give the student, and very organized, and, went through my spiel. And the mom looked at me and just says, now, what is this SAT thing? I had gone through this whole process around SAT prep, and I didn't stop to realize that maybe this parent doesn't even understand what the SAT is. So I was able to explain what the SAT was, its importance in college access for the student. And, because of that, there was greater commitment on the student's part to make it to prep twice a week, right? Because the mom knew how important it was, and she was going to make sure that her son got there. In our workshops, parents are always invited to participate. We pivoted, to remote workshops during the stay in place order. And many parents found it, I think, a little bit easier, if scheduling conflicts were a thing for workshops to participate, because we were able to host workshops, not just on a certain day, but now, during times when it was going to be more convenient for parents. So involving the parents in these different activities helps them to feel like they are part of that child's path to college, or that they're going to be able to really help that child make that decision, and guide them on the best path forward, as they see their child making this leap from being a youth, a kid in high school, to now a young adult who's going to go to college.
Thanks, Laura. The last way that we have here to include parents, and again, there are a lot of different things we could share. We're just sharing just a few things, but one is just always respecting the authority of the parents. Most of our students come from sociocultural backgrounds where there's a large family contingency that's involved in the decision-making process, and especially the parents. And sometimes we have to work with the parents as much as we work with students around that growth mindset, thinking about taking on challenges. Maybe it's their student going to a college on the East Coast instead of staying here locally or staying in state. and demonstrating that respect and letting them know that ultimately, and this is something not just in our work with parents in general, we don't have an agenda. Our agenda is their agenda. And what we want to do is help remove obstacles from their way and help provide the necessary knowledge and tools for them to succeed. But where the student goes and what the student studies and all that's a family decision for the most part in our context. And so just making sure that we treat the authority of the parents with respect. And just because they may come from a context where they don't have the information or don't have the resources necessary does not mean that they are any less intelligent or any less caring about their student. And we as much as possible want to always convey that respect for them. And that doesn't mean we don't challenge them. It just means that we're not going to try to bully or push them in any direction that they're not comfortable in going.
Aaron, before we
did you want to add to that?
Well, before we move on to the next slide, I did want to say that, when we're talking about involving the parents in our workshops and advising or leadership alongside their students, parents, at the beginning of the school year, they get a workshop schedule, for example, and we tell all parents and students, put this in your calendar. We can see when, the students have registered, it's just a way to track attendance for the next workshop. And when we see that attendance looks pretty low, we can go out to our parent leader team and say, we have this workshop coming up, it's a career fair. Not too many parents have signed up to attend. Can you contact that parent and let them know why it's so important that you be there with their child, that you're able to learn about different careers alongside your child and be able to have those conversations back at home. And so you can see then attendance go up tenfold because of that personal connection that a parent had with another parent, and that parent sharing the importance of why this activity or this workshop is important that they be there. Again, it's part of that building relationship and building trust and providing opportunities for families to do things together. Just this past weekend, we had a bus, a full bus attending Northbrook Symphony Orchestra. And, it was moms, dads, children in the program, younger siblings, and, the energy coming back was just amazing. Families together can talk about what they experienced. So it's also just finding ways to include the whole family. And I love that dads were there. This is a time, spring and summer, it's hard to get dads to participate in things with their families because a lot of them are in the landscaping business and will work on Sundays.
Why don't you keep us going? You started talking about trust. Laura, why don't you talk about some of the challenges around trust?
The trust doesn't happen just because a parent joins the program. Based on the essay responses that I read to you, the trust does begin there because, some of what I read took a lot of trust and showing some vulnerability around how that parent was thinking about why they wanted to join the program. And then trust happens again when a parent is sitting across another parent in an interview process, which we'll do together as a group activity in a few minutes. But it just requires that trust, time, and relationship building that starts to happen during advising sessions, or even things like getting on a bus together and sitting on a bus for an hour to go visit a college. I remember visiting a couple of colleges in Wisconsin, and one new family who had joined, we're walking along campus, and she looks at me and she says, and I'm going to say this in Spanish first because I'll never forget it. And her daughter was in the 5th grade at the time. She says, "No sé sobre esto de la universidad, pero voy a confiar en ti y probarlo." In other words, I don't know about this college thing, but I'm going to trust you and give it a try. Today, this mom's daughter is a sophomore at Case Western Reserve University. That required a lot of trust and time to build that relationship.
Thank you, Laura. That's a great story. I think that's one of the most inspiring things about my job is just hearing the stories of that incremental growth. And I think, you know, as I've gotten to know the organization over the last year, a little over a year, you know, one of the things I keep hearing is our parents are growing in the program as much and sometimes even more than the students themselves are growing. And so one of the challenges is that it requires education for the parents, and just a desire or a passion on their part. It's not enough. We work really hard to help parents understand the path and the process of you know, especially when so many of our families come from a context where it's borderline survival. It's like, will we have enough the next day? Will we have enough this year? And, you know, helping a parent grasp a long-term vision of their 6th grader in, you know, 6 or 7 years from now being in college and thriving, it's sometimes a big challenge for them. And there's other practical things, you know, whether that's English as a second language, whether that's digital literacy. We're always trying to help provide tools and resources for our parents so that they can actively engage with their students. I don't know, Laura, I think you know at least 1 or 2 examples of parents who have even said, well, if my son or daughter can go to college, then I can too.
Yeah, we've had several parents, for example, want to just take English classes because they want to be able to communicate with confidence with their child's teacher or a counselor or a principal. And today in the world that we live in, a lot of the communication that teachers respond to quickly is through email. And so parents are learning that they have to learn new skills. They have to be able to connect with teachers, to ask questions, to understand what's going on, to understand how they can help their child, you know, reinforce that learning at home. And they're learning how to use a Chromebook. They're learning how to use Google Docs. They're learning how to use Google Sheets. They're learning how to write an email properly. And they are taking advantage of some of the courses offered in this school district for parents, like the ESL classes. And, you know, there have been parents who have, you know, gone through the district level English courses, and the instructor will say, you know, there's nothing more I can teach you. I think you should sign up for these courses at CLC. And not just learning how to speak, but also learning how to write English and feeling proud if they're sitting at the table doing homework together with their child.
You're continuing, Noda.
Okay, so Another challenge we have, we work with primarily Latino families. It just mirrors the demographic of the community, of the high school. And so one of our challenges is that we are seen sometimes as a Latino college readiness program. We are not. We're here for everyone. And it can get a little bit tricky when, for example, at a workshop, we are offering our workshops in English and in Spanish, because that's what we're committed to doing, is to making sure that parents in Spanish get the same information. And although we're using a simultaneous translation tool now called Interactio, and we have a person from the school district who's providing simultaneous translation. Back in the early days before that tool, it was pretty challenging when we were presenting a workshop in English and then stopping and then repeating the same thing in Spanish. That was frustrating for our English only speakers. And it also, you kind of like broke the groove. You're talking about a topic that's really important, and then you got to stop and you have to interpret in Spanish and then go back to it. And we have found a different way to do it, but I will say that still presents a challenge. This year we had our first student whose parents' dominant English is Tagalog. Did I say that right, Aaron? So it's
Tagalog, yeah,
Tagalog,
Filipino.
not English, not Spanish. And when you're talking about, that inclusivity and wanting to, just be mindful of the culture, we also have to be mindful that the culture that, we started with in 2009 is changing as the years go on. And so just keeping that in mind and continuing to keep inclusivity at the forefront is a challenge.
Yeah, and that goes, I think you've explained that really well, but I would just add to that, as we're engaging with parents whose cultural values or systems are different, whether more than, I would say more than 50%, probably more than 75% of our parents did not attend elementary school, high school in the United States. And so they're under their educational system understanding, as well as cultural values, many times are different. And, I really think that is, while it's a challenge, because, being multicultural, everyone's talking about it right now with equity and DEI, and doing it is challenging. It's enriching, and it is so much more effective in the long run, but it does require sometimes crucial conversations. We're big fans here at Waukegan College of Dr. Brene Brown's work, and we like to talk about the idea that clear is kind, and making sure that we have those conversations, that we're not just pushing things under the rug, but if someone's offended by something that we didn't even know was offensive, then we want to have that conversation. And if they don't have specific knowledge about things, we're not going to assume that they know. We're going to make sure that we are very clear about those kind of things. So you all have been listening for a while, and now we're gonna spend the last 10 minutes or so before we do a debrief Q&A with a group activity. So we're gonna need 2 volunteers And to sweeten the pot a little bit, we just sent off to the printer brand new Waukegan College t-shirts. And I thought about this earlier. I would have put a picture up here for the 2 volunteers who participate in this activity. After everyone does their part, we're gonna, if you put your address and name and address in the chat, we'll send you one of our brand new t-shirts when they come in on Friday. But the activity, as it says, is put yourself in the place of a parent of a first-generation college student applying to a college readiness access program like Waukegan College. You are asked to write an essay similar to what Lauda was talking about and shared some snippets from at the beginning, explaining why you want your child to be in the program and how you are willing to participate in their academic success. So I would like for everyone just to take 2 or 3 minutes. You don't have to, if you just want to jot down some bullet points, this isn't something you're going to share with us. What we're going to do is those 2 volunteers are going to do about a 2 or 3 minute mock interview, a role play interview with Lauda, who is one of the people that helps to interview our parents who are applying to the program. So we're going to give you a couple minutes. I don't know, Jasmine, if you want to throw on some of that music, if you don't mind, while we let people think and write down their essays. And then, do we have 2 volunteers right off the bat? Anybody want to? Raven, thank you.
I think I would have to share my screen to play the music. Just
Okay, don't worry about it then. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. One more volunteer. Okay, well, think about it, and we'll see after 2 minutes or so, after you write your essay or your bullet points. We'll see if we get another volunteer or not. Laura, do you mind singing? Maybe we can have some like live music or something like that.
I didn't bring my singing voice with me today, otherwise I would.
Give everybody about another minute or so. Want to respect your time, and I also want to make sure we have time for questions. So I think we'll just do one and save a t-shirt for someone else here locally.
All right, well, I'm gonna start the interview with Raven. Raven, thank you for volunteering. You are no longer.
Oh, Brenda, we've got
have
one more person. So Raven and then Brenda. Thank you, Brenda.
Okay. You are both no longer Raven and Brenda. You are a parent of a first-generation college student applying to our program, and you applied to the program and you were invited now to an interview with Waukegan College. And I just want to say that these questions are not meant to be intrusive. They are the beginning of us starting to build trust. And our interviews take place at the same time a student is being interviewed by an advisor, and a parent leader or a parent who's been in our program for a while and really understands the program is doing the interview with the prospective parent. So Raven, I'll start with you. Thank you so much for applying to our program. We are excited to get to know you better. How many children do you have?
I have 1.
And will the student applying to this program being, so you just have 1, that's the student applying to the program?
Yes.
Okay. How do you encourage learning outside of school?
let's see. So when they get home from school, I ask them how school was. I make sure I check their grades online and we talk about what their grades are. I make sure that they're doing their homework. Yeah.
That's great. Those are all the right things. Do you do anything at the library, or do you encourage your child to participate in summer programs?
You know what? We haven't really been to the library and they haven't done any summer programs just yet.
So as part of our program, we offer different opportunities for your child and yourself to do things at the library. We have a Read to Achieve program where your child is going to get to improve their reading and vocabulary and critical thinking skills by reading out loud to a volunteer reading tutor. We also have a math enrichment program that we host at the Waukegan Public Library. And, you know, while you're there, not only will you be participating in helping your child learn outside of school in different ways, but the library has a lot of other activities that you can get involved with. A lot of them are arts and crafts. A lot of them are learning about cultural heritage. And it's just a great place to continue to hang out. And we want students in Waukegan to College to continue learning all summer so that they don't experience something called the summer slide. And we will work really hard with your family to identify wonderful summer learning opportunities, whether they're local camps or camps on college campuses. And you know, your child can learn things in different areas. They can be, you know, arts and culture or something in the sciences. So we will help you continue to learn how to help your child learn outside of school. I am going to switch over to Brenda now to continue the interview, just so that we're tracking time. So Brenda, hi. What is your vision for your child's future? Oh, you're on mute.
I want all of my children to be able to get good jobs and have a good career.
Brenda.
And hopefully make enough money to take care of me in my retirement.
How do you plan on affording college? Are you saving for college now?
We don't have any money saved for college, but I hear that there's scholarships out there. Mm-hmm. And I try to get my kids to understand that if they do well in school, that maybe they can be eligible for a scholarship when they get to college, so that it can help us with being able to afford college.
You know, we run a scholarship club twice a week for students who are going through the college application process, and we make a commitment to your family early on to help make sure that students are going to get the best grades possible, so that when they're in high school, they can take the most rigorous courses that they can handle, that they continue to get the best grades possible. And then we start to help them identify and apply to scholarships that they're eligible for, so that we can help that student be able to afford to go to college. But we don't just work with the student, we work with the whole family. And so Brenda, as part of our program, you'll be invited to attend workshops on financial literacy to help you understand how you can possibly save for college. We'll make sure that you're part of any financial aid discussions with your child, understanding what FAFSA is, understanding what school loans are, things like that. So we make a commitment to also help you understand all of these things. And we hope that you and your child will join our program. So I'm going to end the interview there. I want to thank Raven and Brenda. I do just want to let you know that we do ask a few other questions. Again, they're not meant to be intrusive, but it's meant for us to understand the family that we're going to be supporting so that we can support them the right way. But we will want to know if a student is a US citizen or not, only so that we can support any undocumented or DACA students appropriately and take the fear that a parent might have in disclosing that information, because many parents believe that if their child is undocumented, they cannot go to college. And so we want to know that up front. We also ask if they have reliable transportation. We do have some families that don't have reliable transportation, so it's not to exclude them, it's to understand how we can support them. And then we just want to
Hey, Laura?
Yes.
Just for the sake of time, I'm gonna see. I think we need to move to the debrief.
Okay.
Just so that we can appreciate time. If anyone's interested, that same email that I put for Brenda and Raven, if you would like a copy of the interview guide, we were more than willing to send that to you. You can email Laura at lauda.rios@waukegancollege.org. But we want to ask you to debrief with us, and if there are any questions you have, you can put them in the chat in the last few minutes. But what's one idea that you want to take back and apply, and how do you anticipate that this will impact your outcomes with students? So feel free to share in the chat or share a question. Thank you so much also for joining in this conversation. This is, I believe, one of the key factors of success that we have is we engage parents, and we definitely are passionate about sharing that with anybody and everyone. So any ideas? I'm not seeing anything moving in the chat. Any big idea takeaways or little idea takeaways that, and if you want to share it and out loud, that's fine too. Just let us just unmute and share.
I have a comment/question. So I work with a post-secondary coach who a lot of times, like, he's looking at the data and seeing that our students tend to not graduate when they go to like a community college first versus going to a 4-year. He also like prioritizes the private colleges versus the public, but then a lot of the students I work with are really, they're scared about financial stuff and how to pay for it. And I think a lot of that's coming from like their families too. So I guess I'm just wondering how to kind of bridge the two, if that makes sense.
It's interesting. I just shared an article, and I don't remember where it was, with our whole team a week or two ago, with some of those very similar statistics. And I asked them to look at that. I mean, the theme of this conference is about equity, right? And I asked them to look at it through the lens of equity. It mentioned statistically students who go to community college first graduate less. That's very easy to cite those statistics from a place of privilege. But when your students either attitudinally have fears and concerns, or practically they need to be there to support their family, or financially it's just out of their reach initially, I think when we just look at the data and we don't humanize that, a lot of students are going to miss out. There's going to be a gap because we're not humanizing that data equitably. That would be my response to that.
And the conversation with the parents early on is important, right? Being honest with the parent. Yes, college is expensive. We're going to work with your child to help them get the best financial aid package that they can. And then just helping the parent to understand that, with college, their earning potential is going to be greater. They're going to have better, more choices, right? And that's also important for parents to hear too. And then again, helping them with tools so that they can be able to save for some of that college. And yeah, so hopefully that helps.
Yeah. Well, that's what we've got for you. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Jasmine, for allowing us to be here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope that you're taking away some little nugget, if nothing else, some encouragement to continue the sometimes challenging but very important work of engaging parents in post-secondary education access. We believe it, and we're going to continue to do it. Back to you, Jasmine.
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, I want to thank Aaron and Laura for sharing their wisdom with us, and also thank everyone in the audience for participating and joining us today. As a reminder, a recording of this session and a copy of the PowerPoint will be posted to the conference website shortly after the conference ends. That concludes this session. Thank you, everyone, and hope you all enjoy the rest of the conference. Bye.